Hi everyone, welcome to this new video. We're going to work in chapter 16. We're going to work from exercises 6 to 10 of the chapter Monopolistic Competition. This is a book of Gregory Mankiw, Principles of Economics, 7th edition. So the first question says that sparkle is one form of many in the market for toothpaste, which is in the long run equilibrium. Okay, so this is the first step. We need to differentiate between short run and long run equilibrium. The basic difference between short and long is when we talk about short, we have two different types of cost. We have the variable cost and we have the fixed cost. When we talk throughout or we talk about long run, we are talking just about at that time we're just talking about all the costs, they are variable, so it means immediately that the total cost is equal to the total variable cost. Why? Basically because there are different stuff, like for example the rent that you need to pay for the place where you are producing. In the short run you have a contract, at least we can say that 1 year or something like that, so definitely those costs are fixed, but in the long run all those costs are variable because they will depend at the end of the day for the production. So the idea is like we need to draw a diagram showing Sparkle's demand curve, marginal revenue curve, average total cost curve, and marginal cost curve. We need to label Sparkle's profit maximizing output and price. So here we have all the graphs, so we need to understand about it. So here we have the axis, we have naturally the y-axis, the price, and we have the quantity. The first two curves that I want that you identify and I want that you really understand how they work is about the marginal cost and the average total cost. They have immediate relation between them. Why? As you notice, every time that this is downward slope, this one is lower the marginal cost. But once this is cut in the minimum, the marginal cost is higher than the average total cost. And why? Because basically imagine that you have the average, the grade point average, and naturally the next exam seen as the marginal cost because it's the additional the the cost of the additional unit produced. So this one should be like the exam, the additional grade that you will take. So if this one, it should be lower than your average, naturally your average will decrease. If you have an average of 8, for example, of out 8 out 10, and the next exam is 6, definitely this marginal cost, this marginal exam is lower than the average total cost. So it means that your average will decrease, your GPA will decrease. Otherwise, we have when the marginal cost is higher than the average total cost, then your next exam is higher than the average total cost, then your average total cost will increase. So this is the first important part that we need to take into account. Second, this stands for monopoly, for monopolistic competition, for perfect competition. This works the same. Here is the difference. We have the demand naturally is negative, different from the perfect competition, because remember the monopolistic competition they have power market. So it means that they can change, they can fix the price, and according to the price that they fix, the market will change, will respond in some way. So for this reason, the demand is negative. Then we have the marginal revenue. Remember, the marginal revenue is it lies down below the demand curve, and this is the marginal revenue. Remember the definition of the marginal revenue, the additional revenue that you will have when you sell one additional unit. Okay, that's the basic idea. So we already identified these four curves for that it stands by for monopolistic competition. Okay, and then this is the trick because we are talking about long run equilibrium. So the idea is like, because in the short run you are reporting positive profits, you can attract. So for example, there are going to be another firms that um, they will be interested on entering into the market. Why? Because basically there are benefits in the market, so they will say, okay, let's set up a new firm and we will have profits as well. The idea is like, because monopolistic competition is an open market, there is a free entry, free exit. So the idea is like, all the firms, they will arrive, and at the end of the day, all this cake should be split between the companies that they are into the market until the benefits are totally null. They are zero. Okay, so how we can represent that into the draw? The idea is like, when you have benefits equal to zero, the idea is like, we will have total revenue equal to total cost. Okay, then the profit should be zero naturally. So we will go here. From that point, we're going to represent the total revenue and total cost the next slide. But here we have the idea where the price is equal to the average total cost. And why we fix that? Because remember, the maximization condition of any firm in any condition, the market, any structure they have, should be marginal revenue equal to marginal cost. And think not like by heart, think more like, okay, so what about if we are producing next an additional unit? Definitely this additional unit should report like additional income or additional revenue. Okay, if we produce addition one, that is like, this revenue that we produce, it should be at least equal to the marginal cost. So this is going to be like the edge of our production, where with the marginal revenue is exactly equal to the marginal cost. So for this reason, every time the red curves they cross each other, we have like, this is the quantity of the quantity that should provide the profit maximizing quantity. Because if you like decide like left to that point, is what you are doing is like less production of less capacity that you really have installed, because you can produce even more and you will have more benefits. But here, if you go to the right part, the point is like, you will have like higher cost than the revenue. It doesn't make any sense. So for this reason, it's the quantity. And what is going to be the price that you're going to charge for that? So the price should be the quantities that are willing to pay for that quantity, the demand. So it should be this one. So for this reason, this is the maximizing output and this is the price. Okay, so let's move to the next slide. What is the sparkles profit? Explain. So it's what I said. Okay, so the first thing is like, this blue rectangle, this should be labeled as the total revenue. Why? Because remember, total revenue is defined by the price times the quantity. So it should be this price times this quantity, this whole area as the total revenue that you will receive. Okay. Then what about the cost? It should be this kind of yellow square. Why? Because this is the average total cost, okay, times the quantity, right? And this is the definition of total cost. Why? Because average total cost is equal to total cost over Q. What is the cost on average for any unit produced, and the quantity here. So you cancel out quantities and you lie down on T total cost, total cost. Okay, so you have here total cost, which is this one, and here at the end of the day, the total revenue is equal to total cost. So then the profits naturally should be zero. So why zero? Because again, we are talking about long run. In the short run, should be positive. Okay, this is important characteristic of monopolistic competition. You can go to other chapters to understand the other behavior of the other structure of markets. Then C point. On your diagram, show the consumer surplus derived from the purchase of Sparkle toothpaste. Also show the deadweight loss relative to the efficient level of output. So here again we have our usual diagram. So here should be the consumer surplus. So what is the definition of consumer surplus? It's like kind of a saving between quotation marks of the money that people into the market they are willing to pay and the price that really they pay, because there is a part of the demand that actually there are more people that they would like to pay even more for this toothpaste, but they don't will pay that because the price of the market is different. What I'm trying to say is, like, if you go to supermarket and the price is $2, but you were expecting that the price should be 3, you won't say to the cashier, ma'am, I'm gonna pay $3 because it's what I wanted to pay for that. You will pay the price of the market. So this is like consumer surplus. You have this one, and this is a kind of a measure of welfare in economics. The higher surplus or from consumer producer side you have, is like the higher welfare you obtain for that transaction. So this triangle with the lines or the border and on black, this is the consumer surplus of that people. And what is the deadweight loss? The deadweight loss is kind of definition we can understand. Is like kind of all the transaction that they are not performed due to the different price that they in another scenario should be like produced in the market. This is like part of the inefficiency of the monopolistic production or monopolistic competition. Basically, because they have like power market, so it implies that there should be some inefficiency compare with the ideal world, which is the perfect competition, okay, where there is no deadweight loss. So here this is deadweight loss. Why? Because and on perfect competition we have the marginal cost is exactly equal to the demand, okay, because the price is equal to the marginal cost. They don't have any benefit. So this one should be the transaction or the quantity is ideal for the optimal social quantity. And here should be the price, which should be naturally lower than the monopolistic price. But this old triangle, because this one down here should be like this one should be the producer surplus, this stuff here, right? But this triangle is not taken by anyone, neither consumer nor producers. For this reason, we can talk this one as a deadweight loss. Okay. Sparkle is again, okay, sorry. If the government forced Sparkle to produce the efficient level of output, what would happen to the firm? What would happen to Sparkle's customers? So here again we have the diagram of our Sparkle firm, and here we have as I said before, this P star and Q star should be the social, the optimum from the perfect competition. Okay, with the price should be lower and the quantities into the market should be higher, so then more people can consume that good. So here we have the cost. What is the cost? Again, you project the quantity. Sorry, the quantity is where we have this one, right? Because we said a perfect competition, but the cost should be this quantity reflected or projected to the average total cost. So then you have a look here immediately that the profits are negative. So how is another way different from the areas from the rectangles that I provided to you? Because if you say you can make like a rectangle, should be this one the total revenue, and this one the higher should be the total cost. So definitely should be negative. But how we can grasp that from the equation? So here we have the profits. We have the total revenue is equal, minus the total cost equal to the profits. Total revenue we can express as P times Q, which is the price times the quantity. Total cost, we can make kind of a trick. We can put over Q, but we can multiply by Q, so then we are not affecting that equation. So then you can cancel out this one. Okay, so it should be again here, but the total cost by definition over Q is defined by the average total cost. So here we have Q and Q, we can collect the terms. At the end, we have this expression. This is another way to express the profits. So here we have the quantities times the price minus average total cost. So here we can conclude something really interesting. Anytime is what you really want to go. So anytime the price is higher than the average total cost, your profits should be positive. Anytime the price is equal to the average total cost, your benefit should be zero. As remember the first slide I showed you when we have the price equal to average total cost, because we were talking about long run where the profits are equal to zero. So then the profits, when the price is lower than average total cost, we are lying down in a situation where the benefits the firm has benefits lower than zero, and this is actually the case. As a matter of fact, we have here where the average total cost is higher than the price, so then the profits are negative. So what happened to the firm? It should be definitely more difficult because they should offer to a lower price, which is not the capacity, because the marginal revenue is lower than the marginal cost, so you are losing money. And then from consumer sides, they are better because, as you remember, the first triangle was a measure of consumer surplus, but at that time the consumer surplus is higher. Okay, then seventh point. Consider a monopolistically competitive market with n firms. Okay, so there is an n which should be a number established of firms, 1, 2, 3, and so on. Okay, should be a positive number, definitely, and higher to zero, naturally, because otherwise there wouldn't be a market. Each firm's business opportunities are described by the following equation. So here we have the demand. So we have like the inverse demand. Sorry, the demand actually, because the how we represent is the inverse demand. It means like the price in terms of Q, but this is like the original way of representing demand, which is kind of strange because we represent the Cartesian plane in different way. Whatever, we have here the quantity is equal to 100 over n minus p. How we can understand that? First, we have an inverse relationship between price and Q naturally. Higher price, it implies like lower Q. So this is the first characteristic, which is a relationship of 1 to 1. Why? Because the slope is 1, is like the number that is accompanying the P, which is naturally 1. So we have like for 1 unit that you have like a higher, the Q should change in the same rate. And the other one is interesting because we have here the n. So how immediately you can understand the n works. Anytime you have the denominator, so the n should increase, naturally the demand will decrease. Okay, and this makes sense because anytime you have like more competence into the market, you will face a lower demand, right? So naturally, you will sell less because of the competence, more competence into the market. Then we have the marginal revenue. Okay, so how we can take the marginal revenue from people that maybe they are more into algebra. I'm going to show you. Okay, just to have here. So the idea is like you have total revenue. If you are not into algebra too much, it's not necessary, but just in case you want. So total revenue should be like the price times Q, right? But because it should be in terms of Q, we need to change this price. So collect in some way here. So how we can collect? So the price, is equal to 100 over n minus Q, right? So we have here already P, so the inverse demand in terms of Q. So you can replace, and the total revenue is equal to 100 over n minus Q times Q, right? So you can multiply them, and you will have like the total revenue is equal to this one times Q over n minus Q squared. right? So what is the definition of total revenue mathematically? It should be the derivative from the total revenue in terms of Q, right? So it should be the here total revenue prime, which is the derivative of that, should be 100 over n minus the derivative form. This one I'm not going to go deep into it. It's just in case maybe you're interested where this marginal revenue is taken. So this is equal to the marginal revenue, which is exactly the other one. Okay, just in case maybe you are kind of interested for that. Okay, whatever. So then let's just like cancel out this one. Okay, maybe we need this space. So here we have the total cost. This is again provided. All those information they are provided. Okay, total cost, we have this one, which is naturally positive in terms of Q. Anytime you produce more, the total cost should be higher, and it's a square, so it should be kind of it's a second grade equation. It should be a curve. Okay, it should be not a straight line. And then the marginal cost is again the derivative of this one, so this one should be 0 and this one should be 2Q. I'm not going to go into derivatives. It's just like this is provided for from the book. And then as I said, we need that space. Okay, and this one is the question: how does n the number of firms in the market affect each demand curve and why? So then we already know that because we discussed that at the very beginning of the exercise, but we were going to work a little bit more on that. So here we have the demand. So let's suppose that the number of firms is 1, and then this is the demand curve. Okay, then I'm going to represent in my Cartesian plan. So we have here, I don't know how you can kind of draft it, but I'm going to make it that way. So if n is equal to 1, first imagine that p is equal to 0, the price is 0. So then the quantity should be 100. Okay, so this point should be 100. And then imagine that the Q is equal to 0. So then it should be 0 equal to 100 minus P. You collect P and you have P equal to 100. So this is like the representation of the demand curve in the case when there is one firm present in the market. Suppose n equal to 2. So when n is equal to 2, you have this one. So you have naturally this equation. Again, you perform the same way and you will finish on 50 and 50. So what you can say, so the demand shift to the left every time the number of firms increases. Why? Since you have more competence into the market, you will face less demand because consumers will be attracted to different firms. Okay, so for this reason, your demand should be reduced. Okay, so here we have this one, the representation. So the idea is like, as I said, more firms, more competitive the market. The idea is like, for example, the same price. You have, for example, this one, I don't know, 40. You will sell more, but when you have like more firms, naturally at the same price you will sell less. Okay, so then the idea is like, how many units does each firm produce? The answers to this and the next two questions depend on n. Naturally, it will depend on n because we have like it's a constant naturally, but at this time we don't have any fixed value. So we're going to keep our n in our equations. So we have again our curves. So remember, the first condition or the condition of every firm is like the marginal cost should be equal to the marginal revenue. So you take the marginal cost, which is going to be 2Q. Okay, I made like upside down, but whatever, we have 2Q, and the marginal revenue should be this one, right? So then you need to collect Q and find the optimal value of Q. This is the optimal value of Q where you reach this condition where the marginal cost is equal to the marginal revenue. So here you take this 2Q to the other side because with minus you go with plus. And then you have this one. Okay, this one I have like this, and I just put this to the left and this to the right just to make some order and to have our variable answer in the left part just for order. But if you have a equal to b, is exactly the same to b equal to a. Okay, so here we have the Q, then you can collect the 4, so you put over 100, and you have this is the optimal quantity that you produce. Naturally is negative or is inverse correlated with the n. So anytime you have like higher firms, more firms into the market, your quantity should decrease. Okay, so this is the point. And then at what price does each firm charge? So then you replace that to find. So don't make this one that you replace on the marginal cost, because you will reach the value of the marginal cost. The idea, or in the marginal revenue, you should place the value of the marginal revenue naturally should be the same, right? Because at that time you are starting from the condition where the margin cost equal to the marginal revenue. So then you need to replace to the demand naturally. So then as what I said, what I did this one, I'm sorry, this one appears weird. So we have here the P star should be this one. So remember, if you have this one, Q star is equal to this, so then you can put the price over here and the Q here. So this one is the condition of the P star, the maximizing price. So for this one is the star, okay? So then I collect them. So I just like put the let me see here, because I did something strange here. Okay, I think that the steps there are kind of strange, but whatever. So here we have this one. I should start actually from this one, right? Then you can collect the terms here, right? Okay, so here, sorry, here is the start, right? Then you replace the quantity by 25n, this one. You collect the terms, so you put this one to the right and this to the left. So you have this one. This is the common denominator between them. So you keep n and you make 100 minus 25. So this should be 75n. So those are the quantities and prices that each firm will produce, depending naturally on the number of firms. How much profit does each firm make? So here we have the question. So again, we have the values that we already found before, and here we have the equation for profits: total revenue minus total cost. So then the profit should be price times Q minus total cost should be 50 plus Q squared, which is the total cost. Remember, keep the minus with parentheses. It's a common mistake that we have, because we don't keep like separated, and we mix with here with just like mass, like we put here plus, so that should be wrong. So here we have the values that we'll replace should be the optimal, and then we have this one. Okay, we just replace them, the quantities here and the price. Then this times this one is this one. N times n is n squared, the same base, just like sum. Okay, here the 1 plus 1. Okay, here we have 50, and then we have this one, 25 squared should be this one, and n squared should be this one. Okay, so then you have this one. This is not a common denominator, so I put n squared. So what is missing for 50 to become n squared in the denominator? The denominator is 1, so it misses like everything, n squared. So for this reason I multiply by n squared, and then I just collect the minus, take into account that it breaks the parentheses and it changes this plus, and then this should be the profit. What is interesting here is, again, the profits, they depend on the number of firms. The higher firms, the higher number of firms, the lower profit that this firm will produce. Okay, in the long run, how many firms will exist in the market? Any idea for that? Maybe stop the video and think about, try what should be maybe that, how you can interpret, how you can understand that before having a look what we are going to do then. So here we have again the questions, and then we have the profits. What is the condition in the long run for monopolistic competition? Should be 0. So then the n squared automatically multiplied to 0, it becomes to this part, and then you collect n, it's what you want to find out. then you put then is minus plus, then this 50 is multiplying, you go to the other side, or it goes like over, and then the n squared should be equal to 25. So then you should use square root in the left part, but if you use in the left part, you should use in the right part, and then you take the positive value of n, because you cannot take negative terms, because this square root naturally it has two solutions, minus 5 and 5, and you will take the positive one where we are talking. So the firms that will exist in this market should be 5. Okay. Then the 8th point. The market for peanut butter in Nutville is monopolistically competitive and in long run equilibrium is in long. So it's the same condition of the previous one. One day, consumer advocates KPGF discovers that all brands of peanut butter in Nutville are identical. Thereafter, the market becomes perfectly competitive. So from like they fix the price to price takers. Thereafter, okay, thereafter becomes perfectly competitive and again reaches its long run equilibrium. What is the difference? Like the long run equilibrium should be 0 again, but they don't have any incidence on the price. Okay, we will see, or we will discuss about it. Using an appropriate diagram, explain whether each of the following variables increases, decreases, or stay the same for a typical firm in the market. So we're going to discuss regarding price, quantity, average, total cost, marginal cost, and profit. Okay, so here is the point. So here we have a monopolistic competitive firm. Okay, so that's the case of what we are talking about before. So it's exactly the same diagram that we discussed. We discussed before, and we have this one, the price and quantity, right? This is the optimal. And what is going to happen in the competitive firm? The price is exactly to the marginal price, to the marginal cost. Okay, and this lie down in the at the minimum of the average total cost. And remember, the minimum of the average total cost is cut by the marginal cost. So what are the difference? Price. So the price before of this peanut butter market should be higher in the monopolistically competitive firm compared with the perfectly competitive firm. Okay, because this is naturally lower. The quantity. Remember, the quantity of the monopolistically market is every time lower than the perfect competition. So this is the second one. So the quantity should decrease and the price should decrease. The price should decrease and the quantity should increase. And the average total cost. The point is like here, you produce at that time or that point, and then this one should be the average total cost, which should be lower, okay, because it lies down to the minimum. This is the efficient scale, right? And then the marginal cost. The marginal cost before it was this one, then it moves to this part, so the marginal cost should be higher. And the profits should be exactly the same, because in the long run, either a competitive firm or a monopolistically competitive firm, they have profits equal to 0. Okay, so for each of the following pairs of firms, explain which firm would be more likely to engage in advertising. This is kind of subtle, but let's think about this one. Family-owned farm or family-owned restaurant. So the idea is like should be more like family-owned restaurants. Why? Because when the firm is more into a monopolistically competitive market, they have more incentives to invest on publicity or advertisement. Sorry. So for this reason, advertising is more when you have more differentiated products, because you want to show what are the features that you are presenting into the market, different from like kind of commodities, kind of raw materials, kind of industrial stuff, where everybody knows what are the real characteristic of them, and you don't need to make any advertising at all. So they should be like family-owned restaurant. A manufacturer of forklifts or manufacturer of cars. Definitely it should be more cars, because cars, even they provide like a service, usually have like infinite different characteristics inside a car, different from forklifts. Like even they have like obviously the capacity of lifting, but we can find or identify which is the more differentiated or the more kind of kind of closer to the monopolistically market, and these should invest more on advertising. A company that invented very comfortable razor, or a company that invented less comfortable razor. This is a very important part that is discussed throughout the chapter, because when you are on TV and you have a look to some product, you automatically is like kind of appealing, but you automatically infer in some way, okay, if they invest a lot of money on that product, it's because it should be okay. If this famous guy, the actor, actress, whatever, is on TV, on tube, and they launch a product and it's a guy there, it's like kind of implicit signal of quality. So then the very comfortable razor should be, because if you provide a very comfortable razor and an advertising, it like should be the first cost, but you are going to take usual customers that they will buy more. If you make uh, advertising for a less comfortable razor, people will buy the first time, but they will want to buy anymore. So definitely should not be a good deal. The last point says Sleek Sneakers Company is one of the many firms in the market for shoes. First, assume that Sleek is currently earning short-run economic profit. As usual, a monopolistically competitive firm on a correctly labeled diagram shows Sleek's profit maximizing output of one price as well as the area representing profit. So remember, it's going to be exactly the same as the 6 point, but remember that the first part we were talking about long run, where the profits are equal to zero, and here we talk about the short run, where there are positive profits. So here we have, so what is the difference? Remember this one, the point was exactly the average total cost. Here there is a gap between the price and average total cost. We should be higher the price than the average total cost, which is actually the case. So definitely this should be the profit. Okay, definitely should be the profit. Okay. Then, next point, suppose that over time consumers become more focused on stylistic differences among shoe brands. How would this change in attitudes affect each firm's price elasticity of demand? In the long run, how will this change the demand affect the Sleek's price, output, and profit? Okay, the idea is like we are here in the previous word. When immediately people they are more interested on stylistic differences, it means like each firm is more differentiated, and automatically when each firm is more differentiated between them, so among the other among firms, basically the idea is like they can fix a higher price, because people they say, okay, I'm going to buy this enterprise, to this company, and this is really different from the other ones, so I will be more willing to pay more. So immediately I become more inelastic. Why inelastic? Because even they change the price a little bit, the quantity won't change more than the price was changed. So that's the idea. So then we have here demand becomes cheaper. uh, let's see here. So here we have the demand, right? It becomes cheaper because you are more like you are not like you're not going to change too much your consumption when the price changes. Okay, so for this one, the demand should be this one, and the marginal revenue should be this one. Okay, so what will happen? Basically, the price should increase because firms they can charge a higher price compared with the previous one, due to the clients they are more kind of a stick at your company. Then this is the previous price. Okay, we definitely should be lower, and the average total cost should be exactly the same, so there is a higher gap, so it immediately it goes to a higher profits. Okay, so then the price should be higher, the output should be exactly the same, and the profit should be higher. Okay, then the last point, the profit maximizing price you identify in part C, is Lake's demand curve elastic or inelastic? Explain. So from my point of view, it should be more elastic. Why? Because here is all the graph that I showed you before, and then this part, the price so the percentage is changing less than the quantities. Why? Because imagine that the relation is 1 to 1. And here we have 100 and here we have 110, right? So this one, it should be an increase of 10%. But here imagine that we have less quantity, so it should be like 20 to 10, okay, because it changes pair to pair, so one to one. So definitely here we should be decrease of 50% and should be an increase of 10%. So then the price changing less than the quantities. The price is changing less than the quantities. So here we have the equation of elasticity price of demand, where we have on the numerator the quantities and here the price. So then this one should increase more than the price. So remember, so this should be higher. Remember that when this is higher to 1, this is elastic. Okay, so for this reason I would say that this is more elastic bar. Okay, I remember actually the other one, the inelastic, when you charge higher prices, you will have higher revenue. So for this is already like kind of, it's already done by the company at that time when they fix the price. This is when exactly this is part is elastic. It's like more kind of profitable, charge a higher price. Okay, I hope it has worth for you, for your exercises, for you kind of understand of this kind of chapter. This is what I think. Maybe I'm wrong. It maybe that is something that you want to discuss about it. I'm more than open to hear that. And I hope to see you next video. Okay? Bye bye.